Hi, Anna.
Aloha, Tanya. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Awesome.
What's up today?
Well, I wanted to have a talk about water and what is going on with the North Dakota Access Pipeline, all of the new info that came out.
All right.
Ooh.
This is the story that just keeps getting worse.
Doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure probably everybody knows about Standing Rock and the Sioux people and what happened when Energy Transfer Partners was attempting to put the pipeline through, and they eventually did. The issue was that it was going under the Missouri River and under one of the lakes and through treaty territory. So there were a lot of issues, more than issues. Obviously that treaty was not respected when the Native people did not want that
pretty
pipeline
old treaty
through. Right. And the other issue with that was that originally it was
If the
supposed
treaty's
to.
a couple of years old, you don't have to listen to it, I guess.
I guess
anymore.
not, right? Why my mother didn't sign it, so why do I have to pay attention to it, right? So, but the other
took their land, let's take their water too.
well, or not give a crap about the water is more the point. It was initially routed to go through Bismarck, and the people there didn't want it.
No!
So, right. So
Send it
was
through the ghetto.
right. Send it through the Native people's place. The usual story. So anyway, so that's how this all started, and I'm sure everybody watched and saw over the months things that happened as the camps started to assemble. I think at the peak there were probably between 10 and 15,000 people there. It was an exciting time politically. Mm-hmm. It was way that I wouldn't even call it protesting. I really called it bringing in prayer and culture to try to get through to the other side and to stop this, which was met with intensive and unfounded aggression. That for myself,
it was military level aggression.
Right. I had not.
That people I don't think are aware.
Yeah.
Really.
It was
happened.
alarming. It was alarming. Yeah. I mean, and
But it was never in the mass media.
I don't think so.
I don't remember seeing it. I remember seeing people's personal videos and things like that. Right.
And well, because, and we'll get into why it happened and how it was presented to the mass media, because that was a big PR program that spun that. I know, shocking, right? That spun that whole thing around. But I think, like in the 50s and 60s, when the civil rights movement, there was some level of that, but not like we saw at Standing Rock. And it looked a little reminiscent of what happened with the Occupy Wall Street, because that was pretty violent, but it wasn't to the degree of what we saw.
Oh, they upped their game a lot, didn't they? Right,
they did. And here's how that happened. So this is what came out. This is the latest information that's come out this week. So water protectors were targeted by a mercenary security group. This article came out in the Intercept by Jeremy Shahill. So very
interesting.
Very credible.
How early were they targeted?
From the very beginning.
Wow.
So sources say from the very beginning. So little background on the mercenary army that coordinated intel for the Dakota Access Pipeline. So Energy Transfer Partners, which is owned by Kelly Warren, is worth $7.3 billion. During this entire period, over 200 people were arrested, but over 300 people were injured.
Wow.
Some of them
300 injuries.
Severely, right. Blindness. One girl's had her arm practically blown off. People had hypothermia and heart attacks, and all kinds of things were going on, and other really horrendous ways that people were arrested and incarcerated and so forth. So, and then just a little FYI, the pipeline's already leaking.
Yes.
Just FYI. Exactly what they were afraid of, exactly what the Native people told them, exactly what we've seen over and over again is exactly what happened. The other thing that was
keep it going, la 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 la. No, I don't want to hear that.
And the oil is not for domestic use. Right. So those two things we can just say right off the bat exactly what the protesting was about and the protecting was about has already come to pass. So the counterterrorism tactics that were used. Tiger Swan targeted the movement.
Who's Tiger Swan?
Tiger Swan is a mercenary security group. They targeted the movement that opposed the Dakota Access Pipeline with military-style counterterrorism measures.
So they looked at the whole issue of protecting their land.
They were brought in by energy
terrorism.
They were brought in by Energy Transfer Partners to coordinate.
Tiger Swan was brought in by the company building the pipeline to coordinate
intel, protection, and find, as they say, find, fix, and eliminate.
All those laws that were passed under Obama, they were able to use.
Right, exactly.
Wow,
Exactly.
I wonder if that's a coincidence.
Yep. So what I found really shocking about this was that, and it lets, I don't think I really grasped it until this happened, that they were brought in and they coordinated between police, the FBI, the BIA, Bureau of Indian Affairs, Homeland Security, and the...
That always gives me a twitch.
I know. The District Attorney of North Dakota, and police, the National Guard, and police across 5 states.
All 5
and
states.
They coordinated, and they were a primary player in coordinating the efforts to shut down the efforts that were being made by American citizens and Native Americans on their own treaty land.
Right. Oh my goodness.
Through those months between, when did it start? I can't remember, but it was through most of 2016.
So Tiger Swan is like
it's a mercenary.
It's a military-like operative.
Right. Tiger Swan, it was founded by a colonel who was one of the leading military minds in Afghanistan. And he came...
And they sent him to North Dakota.
Well, he has an... Tiger Swan
should be alarming, folks.
Right.
This should be seriously alarming.
Tiger Swan, the mercenary organization, operates in, I think, 5 or 6 different countries.
Okay.
Including the United States.
Okay.
So, so some of the things that happened during this period, of this heightened resistance to the pipeline, were water protectors were compared to being jihadist fighters. In one report, I know, it's really alarming. In one report, the movement that was going on was described as generally following the jihadist insurgency model while they are active. We can expect the individuals who fought for and supported this to follow a post-insurgency model after we collapse it. That's how they described people with prayer sticks.
Peaceful people.
Yep.
Who are only speaking up because
praying with prayer sticks and drums, using their culture in a culturally appropriate way to protest what was happening on their lands, and this is how they were described. They drew comparisons with post-Soviet Afghanistan. One of the reports said, while we can expect to see the continued spread of anti-DAPL dysphoria, aggressive intelligence preparation of the battlefield and
battlefield.
Yep,
they called it the battlefield.
They called it the battlefield. And active coordination between intelligence and security elements are now a proven method of defeating pipeline insurgencies.
Pipeline insurgencies.
The private security firm was retained by a Fortune 500 oil and gas company, coordinated its efforts with local, state, and federal law enforcement to undermine the protest movement, and obviously in this article it says has profound anti-democratic implications.
Absolutely.
Of course it does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tiger Swan's militaristic approach to protecting the client's interest, but also the company's profit-driven imperative to portray the nonviolent water protector movement as an unpredictable and menacing, So much so that it will justify the continued need for extraordinary security measures.
They're so good at this.
Yeah.
They're so good at this PR stuff.
Yeah. So Energy Transfer Partners has continued to retain this organization long after, as we know that most of Standing Rock is empty now. Yeah. And some of the water protectors have moved on to other parts of the pipeline that haven't been built yet, right? As they get further down. Right. Well, they're following them too. So that's
part of that post.
Right. When they're talking about it, that's what they said. Right. So,
wow. I was surprised to see, you did a lot of great research here, by the way. Tiger Swan has an estimated 350 employees.
Across how many countries?
Iraq, Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, India, Latin America, and Japan.
Japan, right.
And they send them out to Standing Rock to protect their corporate interests.
Yep. So the water protectors were met with heavily, and we saw this, and now that I read this, it makes sense to me, but when I saw this, it was so distressing. I remember, and we would be watching it, and then we would, I think a lot of people where we were making phone calls to congressmen, we're making phone calls, Tulsi, I called her office and talked to her office several times, and she did, go there. The veterans movement that ended up going there, right? Veterans for Peace. We had, social media and conversations with them, but it was, I couldn't wrap my mind around what the hell is happening. When they showed up with the LRAD, oh my, it's just shocking. Or the dogs, if you saw the day that the dogs came out and attacked them.
Yeah.
The drone. That was,
yeah. And these guys were operating without a business license?
They were operating with, and they did never get their license either. So initially they didn't have their license because they said they were only doing
IT work or something.
Right.
They were doing technology
stuff. Right, and they weren't providing any actual security services. And the other issue I have to say, what the hell was the Bureau of Indian Affairs doing coordinating with them? What the hell was that?
Well, it'd be like OHA.
Well, yeah, and we know they do that, but that is just unbelievable that if OHA ever went to that level of coordinating with the mercenary army, my God.
It's very interesting.
Unbelievable.
It's hard to say what the whole intention there was.
So the entire militarized apparatus included local and out-of-state police, sheriff's deputies, Bureau of Indian Affairs police, National Guard troops. The police became notorious for their use of so-called less-than-lethal weapons against demonstrators, which included rubber bullets, beanbag pellets, LRAD sound devices, and water cannons. And
that they all learned from Occupy Wall Street stuff too, right? They were like, we got up our game. We need more.
They learned that in their military school, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So Tiger Swan is a company with a deep background in counterterrorism operations. They oversee the work of other security companies that were also contracted to protect the pipeline. So they weren't the only organization that was there either. Other security firms, if you can believe this, it's unbelievable that there was that.
Just so they can build this pipeline so that they can keep making money and not care about the people that have to live there.
I think it was more than that. I think it was more than that. I think it was if you watched some of the little releases that came from Kelsey Warren, it was my feeling when I watched him or listened to him is that he enjoyed crushing the movement. That was part of it. Power.
That's sick.
It is sick, but that was the sense that I had, and obviously he found somebody who could, he found a group that could do that for him. So the other security companies that were also contracted were Silverton, Russell Group of Texas, 10 Code LLC, Permar, SRC, On Point, and Layton. So here's to answer your question. Tiger Swan was created by retired
Army
Colonel James Reese. During the height of the war in Iraq, Reese was a former commander in the elite Army Special Operations Unit known as Delta, entered into the exploding private security and intelligence industry following his retirement. He has an estimated 350 employees. Oh, you already know about that. Was there operating without a license, but I guess you can do that when you're him. And Energy Transfer Partners
if
says
you got
it's
Homeland
okay.
Security on your side, you probably don't need a license. There's a law for that. They passed.
So here's the other. So not only did they provide this massive military presence and this implementation of intensive violence against a group of praying Native people. It's just shocking. But they were also involved in aiding prosecutors to build cases against the water protectors.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
So they're in, the way that they have.
So they wanted to take them down in aggregate as a group, but they also wanted to take them down individually.
Right.
Yeah.
And make an example out of them.
And which goes back to that power thing. So which is what I wanted to ask you. So it really wasn't just about the corporate interest in making sure that the pipeline happened. It was also to make an example out of these guys so that other people won't want to do that in the future.
Right.
That's not going to work.
Right. Make an example of them. So building cases against the water protectors, the security team's responsibility also included collecting information of an evidentiary level that would ultimately aid in prosecution of the protesters. So they allowed the mercenary, and this is where the hell is the Department of Justice?
Right? Where is the Department of Justice?
Who's Obama? Where was the freaking Department of Justice when all of this was going on? Don't tell me they didn't know.
Guys, I just want you to know, just if you're not Native American, you're not living in these areas, when this kind of shit goes down on anybody in our country, that means there's a precedent for it to happen to you. Doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It can happen to you.
Well, and you'll see it. You'll see that start to happen as more and more people protest, more and more of our resources being funneled out of our of our own need as a country to have those things being sold to the highest bidders. Your assets being taken away from your communities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is another test group.
So what can people do if we're outraged about this? Is there anything we can do? Stay aware.
You can't back down.
Don't back down.
You can't back down.
If you believe
I think some
something.
things that I think people could do is to write to the Department of Justice.
Yes.
And ask them,
that's a great idea.
How was this allowed to happen? Start talking to people about it and make other people aware of the level to which something like this has been allowed to go. It's just unbelievable. And then the final piece that they provided. So not only the crushing of the movement, but the implementation of prosecution. They also provided PR.
Of course they did.
Right. So the PR spun the stories in all the major newspapers, and they even had people who formed social network, social pages on Facebook and YouTube and things like that, and started to give their own personal testimony of what was actually happening in North Dakota, and things like dirty hippies. You heard all of those kinds of things. And then there was actually, I don't know if you remember that, but the one time when the garbage trucks actually came and dumped their rubbish onto the Standing Rock's campsite and made it look like all of that rubbish was from Standing Rock. Mm-hmm. Right. So it was all of that kind of coordinating PR. So they were very comprehensive, and they laid out their plan. This is what is so I guess amazing in a very sick way, is the way that they had this entire plan laid out, and it went off flawlessly.
Well, if they're looking at it like a military operation,
which is actually,
of course it was very meticulously laid out and planned.
Right.
And so they all knew, the PR and
all of that
comes into play.
Right.
You know,
And those tactics that are used to implement regime change and all those other things
Were
in
used right
other
here.
countries have come home to roost. Won't go away.
and thank you to all the water protectors, by the way. I got my shirt.
Yes,
No
she
doubt.
has her shirt. I want one. I'm going to get one. And we have to mahalo them too, because what we're going through with our own Mauna, with Mauna Kea, they came here
Mm-hmm.
and stood with us. And a lot of our people went to Standing
over there,
Rock,
right.
Andrew Perez, awesome, and Pua and Havane and Jojo have gone there. So I'm proud of our people. And Tulsi.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tulsi.
Thank you,
made them.
Representative Gabbard.
Yes. So
Well, we hope that shed some light on what was the news that came out this week,
that came out
or
this
the
week,
last
right?
week or two, about Tiger Swan and what really happened at Standing Rock. Stay aware.
And we'll see what happens. Some of the water protectors have their trials and so forth coming on between this week and next week. We'll have to say Lanny Sinkin has gone to Standing Rock to give legal representation and legal help. So we'll
keep aware.
We'll keep aware.
Yeah, we'll have another video on that maybe.
So with
All
that,
right. Well, thank you.
Thank
you did
you.
a lot of good research.
Ooh.
I love you.
I love you too.
I love you guys too.
We love you too.
I'm Tanya,
And I'm Anna.
and we're the Paradise
Patriots. Aloha.